I told my husband I was leaving in anger, thinking he would beg me, but now he's giving me a divorce. I thought I could threaten to leave my husband and make him beg me to stay, but instead he divorced me without wasting time. My life is crumbling right now, and I am responsible for it. I have been weeping profusely these last few days. These past few weeks have been the most devastating time in my life. My husband and I got into a heated argument, and I threatened to leave him if he dared try anything funny. Guess what, guys? He didn't hesitate to serve me divorce papers. Hi, Reddit. My name is Anastasia. I am a 32-year-old hotel manager. The name of my husband is Jackson. He is a 33-year-old businessman. My husband and I have been married for 6 years now. Jackson and I first met way back at high school. He was one of the best students in school. I got close to him so he could be tutoring me in some things I found difficult. It was from there we became friends and eventually started dating. And now, we have been married for 6 years. Since the first day Jackson and I met, it has been nothing but love. He looks out for me in times of trouble and has never stopped. But as it is right now, I have turned Jackson into a beast. Just a mere threat, and it got into his head and wants to divorce me. He threw me out of the house in the middle of the night. It was late in the night, and I didn't know where to go that day. All the neighbors were in their house, and I wasn't close to anyone to seek help. Jackson made me spend the night outside in the cold weather. I was freezing and pleading for him to open the door, but he ignored me. Guys, the weather that day wasn't friendly. After punishing me to sleep in the cold, Jackson wants to divorce me? After everything we have been through together? No, this can be happening. I would try everything within my power to make sure he changed his mind. I can't let another woman take over my place in Jackson's life. My husband can't just throw away our 6 years of marriage just because of a mere threat. Yes, I know I cheated on him, and I won't deny that. But Jackson can't divorce me because I would literally go broke and empty. In all our lives as married couples, we have been living on his own money, not mine. Imagine him taking away that privilege from me. But honestly, guys, I'm speechless, and I don't even know how to fix this. I want you all to give me advice on what to do and how I can change his mind. Yes, I still love my husband, and I would like us to come back together. I really want to fix our marriage. I promise that I have turned a new leaf, and I'm ready to do anything just so Jackson can change his mind. But right now, I don't think he is even ready to listen to anything I have to say. I won't even lie, guys. I lived comfortably with Jackson. He does provide everything I need despite my monthly income. He footed all the bills and never allowed me to spend a dime on the bills coming from the house. Yes, guys, Jackson loved me that much. Sometimes I would always say to myself that I didn't deserve someone like him because of the way he treats me. But guys, despite all of these, my husband and I had just one issue, which is the idea of me being a hotel manager. My husband from day one never liked that, but I, on the other hand, loved it. I took the job of working in a hotel after being jobless for 2 years. I couldn't figure anything meaningful to do. I submitted several emails to different companies, but I got no response. At some point, Jackson told me to stop, but I bent on doing something. I hate being idle doing nothing. To couple it all, I was just bored doing nothing at home. Jackson gave me a lot of money to go on vacation to any place I wanted with my friends, just so I could ease the boredom out. Sometimes we went clubbing, had several dates, hung out with friends, and attended a lot of family events together. But then I wasn't happy. I wanted something to do. I didn't want to just be at home all day and would only go out at night to a club. I had always wanted to be a career woman, not just a housewife alone. So, guys, after our marriage, I couldn't find a job. I stayed home for 2 years before I was able to get one through a friend of mine, Patricia. Patricia was my friend from college. We got connected 2 years after graduation. Apparently, we lost contact after graduation because she went to the States to further her education. When she came back to town, she reached out to me and we hung out in a restaurant. We chatted about lots of things and recounted fun memories we had. It was there I told her about my inability to get a job. Patricia didn't believe me because I was good looking and didn't see the need of stressing myself if my husband wasn't complaining. Everyone couldn't understand the fact that I needed a job, but then it was my choice and I didn't relent. After much talk with Patricia, she agreed to come up with something for me since I was desperately looking for a job. So guys, I waited about a week before Patricia came up with a job vacancy advert for me. It was a newly launched hotel and they needed staff. All other positions were taken except for the position of a receptionist. Of course, I was happy to give it a trial. Patricia was not in support. most especially my husband, but I bent on getting it. I wrote a few emails and I was able to get the job. I was so happy and felt a huge relief. But then I didn't know that the job would cost me a lot. Getting that job was the beginning of my infidelity. The job got into my head that I began seeing my husband less. The first 3 years into the job were quite challenging. I had to get used to waking up in the morning and going early to work, but I got used to it and worked really hard and even became comfortable with the environment. On several occasions, my boss commended me because of my hard work. Along the way, Jackson had no choice but to accept my new job and gave me his full support. Jackson was a good man, and I let him slip off my hands. Like I said earlier, my infidelity was when I started working at the hotel. It started when my boss invited me over to a closed-door party at his house with his friends. He wanted to reward me for all my hard work. At that time, my boss was single and not in any relationship then. I attended the party without Jackson knowing. I gave him the excuse of being on night shift. The party was filled with a lot of men and a few ladies. The night got so heated that I had a lot to drink. I drank so much, but I was able to handle my liquor. Everything that happened that night, I remember them all. It was a bittersweet memory for me. The sweetest part of that night was the fun I had at the party, and even with my boss. The bitter part of it is what I'm going through now. That night, one thing led to another, and I found myself making out with my boss after everyone had gone home. My boss and I were just the remaining ones at his house. He offered to drop me off at my house, but I refused and insisted on staying longer. After a few minutes, I couldn't control myself anymore, and I went over to kiss him. It got heated, and we made out throughout the night. I'm not proud of what I did. I wish I could erase that memory from my head. That's not all, guys. The night morning, I woke up and didn't find my boss in the room. He left home early that morning and dropped some cash on the table with a written note, telling me where to drop the keys when leaving. I felt so embarrassed, and I was regretting everything at that moment. I got angry and left the apartment. A few weeks later, my boss called me into his office and handed a piece of paper to me. Guess what, guys? It was a promotion letter. I got promoted to be the manager. Apparently, the former manager resigned and the space was vacant, and so he gave me the promotion. Considering my rank at that time, I wasn't qualified for the manager position. In fact, I had other senior colleagues. The promotion was shocking to everyone, even to my husband Jackson. He suspected that something was fishy, but I managed to talk him out of it. Of course, it was because my boss and I made out that made him give me that position. After the promotion at work, my affair with my boss became regular. We even went on several dates, picnics, and even clubs. My husband, on the other hand, complained about my job being demanding. I was never around. It cost us a lot of issues between us, but I was still able to hide my infidelity from him. No one suspected my boss and I. One time we went on a vacation together somewhere far away from town. My husband had no clue. I gave him the excuse of going to visit a friend of mine who was ill and needed company. That was the only reasonable excuse I could come up with. So guys, after a few months, my boss went on a trip with his close friends. The trip was to last for 2 months. At that time, I was not happy with it because I had already gotten used to being around him. My boss assured me that he wouldn't stay up that long and told me to take care of everything while he was away. Of course I did. After all, I was the hotel manager. He went for the trip, and a few weeks into it, I was already missing him, but I was able to manage it through. 1 month later, I was still waiting for my boss, but as of then, I had met someone already. His name was Justin. Justin and I met at the hotel when he had issues with the receptionist at the counter. There was a mix-up, and my attention was drawn to it. I was able to sort it out, and we became friends from there. Apparently, Justin was a foreigner in the town. He was on a business trip that was to last for a week. He booked the available hotel, which was the one I worked at. So guys, at that time, Justin and I became friends. We chatted more on the phone because I didn't want any of the staff to suspect anything. I couldn't concentrate because I was always on my phone chatting with Justin. At this point, my husband knew that something was very fishy. My late night calls and chats became more frequent, and I was always with my phone smiling and giggling. On several occasions, he asked me why I was always smiling at the screen of my phone, but I told him it was just a random joke on the internet. Jackson would ask me to share so he too could laugh, but I would always look for a way out. That always pissed him off. Justin and I started seeing each other outside the hotel. We booked another hotel where I was sure that I wouldn't bump into anyone I know then. The new hotel was our hanging out spot. Justin at that time was filling the space of my boss that my husband couldn't. I didn't know that much about Justin. All I wanted then was a companion to fill in the space of my boss till he returns. Justin's stay was to last for a week, but kept postponing it because of me. He wanted to spend more time with me. Justin knew I was married, but didn't know anything about my relationship with my boss. We were seeing each other until my boss returned back from his trip. At that time, I was in a very tight spot. I was happy to see my boss back after all that was all I wanted. But then again, there's Justin. I was beginning to get used to Justin before my boss came back. I was so confused at that time. I had to keep both men away from each other so I wouldn't complicate things. My boss and I went back to being as we used to be, but I limited the time I spent with him. I was just cut up in the middle of 3 men, one of my husband Jackson, and the 2 were my affair partners. None of them knew each other. I played the game well, not until I was double playing. Yes, guys, I was. My relationship with Justin went on another level, and we planned on eloping to his countryside. Justin really took good care of me. It was like I was falling in love for the first time. I didn't know what he used on me, but one thing I'm sure of is that he was really good with words. He brought the idea of going with him to his town and promised to take care of me. But the only thing stopping us was money. I brought up a plan and started extorting money from my husband, and even resulted in taking some bundles without his consent. This went on for a few days, and my husband began complaining about the missing bundles. I denied knowing anything about it, and he didn't say anything. I thought I was smart, but didn't know that my husband had me watched by a private investigator. The private investigator followed me everywhere I went, and even took some pictures of me and Justin together, and even my boss. It was then my husband confirmed his suspicion about me cheating on him, but he kept quiet. The bundles I stole from him, I remitted it to Justin so he could save up for us to leave the country. After confirming that I was traveling out, I went to my boss's office and broke up with him. I lied to him that my husband was getting suspicious of me, and I wouldn't want to have him implicated. I also told him to stop seeing us and only concentrate on working. My boss wasn't happy with what I told him, but I stood my ground and made it clear to him. He wasn't buying it at that moment, and so I walked out of the office. I concentrated on my job and behaved normally. Justin lodged out from the hotel I worked at and lodged somewhere far away from there. So guys, back then at the house, I packed my bags a bit so my husband wouldn't suspect anything. Justin and I planned the date we were to go and booked a ticket ahead of time. Everything was moving out fine until one day my boss asked to see him. My boss told me not to end our affair, but I refused. He even went as far as increasing my monthly income just so I could change my mind, but I didn't. At that time, I had made up my mind to be with Justin and no one else. A few weeks later, it was the period that Justin was to leave the country. That week, I had arranged everything and packed all that I needed. I was really in a happy mood. Not until there was a day remaining for us to leave when my husband came to meet and asked me who the 2 men I was cheating on him with were. At first I was shocked, but I composed myself and denied it. That night it was past 11 p.m. He yelled out so loud and demanded to know, but I didn't say anything. From there we got into a heated argument. To back his allegations up, he brought out a stack of pictures of me and my affair partners. Jackson told me that I was the one stealing money from him and told me to return every penny I stole or else I won't find it funny. Immediately I told him he couldn't do anything, and if he tried anything funny, I would leave him and he would never see me again. My husband pulled me by my arms closer to him and told me that he would make that easy for me and there wasn't any need of threatening anybody, and he dragged me out of the house. Jackson slammed the door and locked me outside. I banged the door and asked him to open it, but gave me a deaf ear. I left in the cold. The weather wasn't pleasant. Both my hands and feet were freezing. I had to run to the garage to spend the night. The next morning I woke up and I could barely walk. I pleaded with Jackson to open the door, but he refused. He didn't open the door, not until it was time for him to leave for work. He shut it immediately when he came out. I followed my husband, pleading with him to forgive me till when he entered his car. I even went as far as staying at the gate, trying to block him from driving out, but Jackson didn't mind running me over. I ran out of the way when I saw him coming out at speed. Immediately after my husband left, I thought of what to do. Luckily for me, my phone was with me. I tried calling Justin, but his line wasn't connecting. At that moment, I thought of going to the hotel to see him and tell him about the new development. I was still in my 90s that morning and didn't mind showing up at the hotel where he lodged. I went to the hotel and headed straight to the receptionist and called the room number for them to inform Justin about my arrival. But guess what the receptionist told me, guys? The lady at the counter told me that Justin checked out early that morning around 4 a.m. I wasn't sure if she had heard the room number correctly, and I repeated it for her again. It was then she told me that the room was empty and the person, Justin, had checked out. I was so mad at myself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. At that moment, I fell to my knees and screamed. The receptionist called security, and I was asked to leave the premises. I didn't know what to do. Justin ran away with the money I stole from my husband. He deceived me into eloping with me while he was using me to steal money from my husband. Now I'm in a huge debt, and my husband told me I would pay everything down to the last penny. I can't even call the figures because it was a lot. I thought Justin wasn't a fraudster. I really don't even know what to do right now because my husband is not being friendly with me. I have tried going over to the house to plead with him, but he's not giving me any listening ear. Patricia, hearing the news, was really disappointed. She didn't hesitate to tell me right in my face and refused to render any help to me. I pleaded with her to spend some few days with her before getting myself back, but she refused. She turned her back on me and didn't care to look back. I never expected it from her. Patricia was the least person I thought could do that to me. Right now, as I write this, I'm in tears. The whole divorce stuff is having a toll on me. I really want to get back with my husband. I hope he changes his mind. Update. Hi guys. Before anything, I want to start by thanking you all for your comments and patience. I really appreciate it and do not take any of them for granted. I also appreciate the nasty comments. Honestly, I take full responsibility for everything. Yes, guys, I know I have kept you all waiting for too long without giving you guys an update about how everything went down. I'm sorry, guys. I have really been down. I have been trying my best to put my life together, but I'm really finding it difficult to do that, most especially when I have no money. To answer the question if Jackson and I have gone our separate ways, yes, we have. The court case wasn't in my favor. I used my last penny to hire a lawyer for the court case, but it didn't go as planned. The divorce was finalized, and we went our separate ways. I tried involving a close friend of his, if he can change his mind and forgive me, but he was bent on getting a divorce, and now I have nothing. I ran to my boss for help, but he chased me out of the office and filed a restraining order for me because of how frequent I was going to his office even after the divorce. I pleaded with him to give me any job, even if it's doing the dishes, but he refused and called the security to throw me out. I was humiliated. I have never been humiliated like that in my life. How could my boss turn his back at me after all we have shared together? Do those moments we spent together didn't mean anything to him? Without being told, I have come to the conclusion that he used me to have fun. I was so stupid to offer myself that cheap to him. I shouldn't have let my guard down. My affair partner, Justin, on the other hand, scammed me with my money, and I haven't heard anything from him since the last time we planned on eloping to another place far away from here. The thought of that is driving me so crazy. I haven't had enough sleep because of that. I thought I could track him down, but I couldn't. He blocked me on all platforms, and he left no traces. Justin really did me dirty. Justin deceived me and stole from my husband. I really regretted it. I was blinded by a shallow love. My ex-husband, on the other hand, wouldn't even want to see me. Jackson made sure to retrieve all the money I stole from him by selling all my expensive outfits and selling my card. To top it up, he seized my credit card and swapped my life savings. Guys, I couldn't cry enough. Right now, I am penniless, feeding from hand to mouth. I can't even get over my husband. I have been stalking him since our last divorce. As I write this right now, Jackson's engagement is coming up in a few months. He has already moved on quickly, and I'm here looking so unkept. Not even presentable enough to date anybody. My life is a total mess right now. I feel so ashamed of myself.
Financially ruined me in court because of a stupid kiss on a night out. I believe the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, applies to me because you really don't know what your enemies are up to. I got betrayed by someone I thought was my friend, and I haven't been the same ever since. I'm not okay right now, and I don't have any friends, which is why I want to share this story with everyone. Hey Redditors, my name is Chloe, and I am 26 years old. My husband, or should I say ex-husband now, Alex, is 28 years old. I believe I should start telling this story from the beginning of my life. I come from a poor family, and that's just it. We are a family of 4, and I have one younger sister, Sophia, who is currently 20 years old. There were so many difficulties growing up, especially from my younger years. When I turned 6, Sophia came into the world, but the crazy part is that she doesn't belong to my dad. My mom was a street food vendor. I don't know if there's another term for that, but she sold junk such as hot dogs and the likes in this cart she dragged around on the street. On the other hand, my dad worked as a janitor, so as you can already imagine, the money they were getting wasn't a lot, hence the reason I said our family was poor. So you could imagine the shock on my dad's face when he heard she was pregnant. I was still 5 years old when I heard them shouting. They say kids usually forget things when they're young, but in my case, it is different because I remember everything. I remember the story she told him on how it all happened. Okay, it's a bit vague, but you know the usual saying of, "It was a silly mistake." She said she didn't want to get rid of the baby because she felt she was going to be special and change our lives. My dad couldn't believe what she said, and he said he couldn't stay with her anymore. The first few days, he came back home drunk and became violent, which made me cry every day. I don't know how 9 months came by so quickly, but I turned 6, and after, my mom gave birth to Sophia. Dad was not there, of course. He couldn't live with mom carrying another child, so he stopped coming home at a time. The one time he came home was for a divorce, 2 months after Sophia's birth. I remember my mom crying and reading a paper with the word divorce written on it. She signed the paper, and I wondered what it was that made her cry, but eventually as I grew up, I figured it out when Dad stopped coming home. Dad wasn't rich enough to file for custody, and I never thought he wanted to, since it was like a burden of my choice. I remember him kissing me on my forehead and saying that he loved me, and he was always going to be there for me. I don't know where he went, but the next day he came to pack his things when I was sleeping. Or at least that was what Mom said. It was just Mom, Sophia, and I that was left in this small house, and Mom struggled every day. Sure, she cheated on my dad, but she was still my mom that I loved, and Sophia was my sister. Mom was able to send me to school up until I finished high school by the time I was 18. I was also able to get a job as a babysitter or dog walker, anything that could give me money since I wanted to help Mom out with Sophia. Sophia was an angel, and Mom was not completely right about her changing our lives. But I love my sister. I was able to save enough and get admission into Florida State University, but I was a part-time student since I was also working. This is where things were going to go wrong, and I had no idea. But there's a reason I'm telling you the backstory of my life, because they are all connected. I was a people pleaser because I'd do anything to make people content with me, so they'd give me extra tips when I'm done. When I was a part-time student and also going to work, I did extra work to earn money. I offered to do people's assignments and I'll get paid for it. And yeah, that was how I met Alex. We weren't in the same major, but we were in the same year. He said he heard I did assignments and he gave me his assignments to do. It became a regular thing that happened a lot of times, and it was so helpful for me because he paid lots of money. I asked a friend of mine, Sheila, about him, and she told me that he came from a rich family and had lots of money. A year passed, and this continued until he came to me for a personal reason. He wasn't a serious person with studies, and he told me he hated reading. His grades were very low, and he didn't care because he wanted to get school done until his father told him he had to get high grades, or he wasn't going to get anything from him. Alex asked me to be his tutor, and he said he was going to pay me lots of money. This was a great opportunity for me, and I didn't complain when I saw the amount of dollars he offered. I accepted the tutor job immediately, and he told me I was going to be tutoring at his house. I said no because it didn't sound like something I was comfortable with. I told him and asked him if we could study at the library instead, and he agreed. We got to work almost immediately, and though we studied different majors, it was closely related, so tutoring him was not too difficult. I was always a straight A student. My mom made sure to remind me of the importance of education right from early childhood, and this played a huge part in my studies, as I was always at the library trying to learn new things whenever I wasn't working, and that contributed greatly to my academic success. Tutoring Alex was surprisingly not as difficult as I thought it would be because he was a really fast learner. And not only that, but he had a good memory as well. He was just not being serious with studies. Alex was super respectful and didn't try anything improper with me. In fact, we got along so well I didn't know when I got so comfortable around him, and I noticed he was comfortable around me. We would talk a lot about life and everything that had happened to us. Turns out Alex just never tried hard, and hence his grades. We were getting closer by the day, and Alex began to tell me more and more about himself until it felt like I knew him better than anyone else. I knew almost everything about him down to what he wanted to do and why he was currently putting in so much effort. He told me that he wanted to do well on his own and show his dad that he didn't need his wealth. Alex, like a lot of other men of his age, didn't have the best relationship with his father. He was pretty ambitious, far more ambitious than I thought, and I was beginning to love him for it. He told me that he wanted to start up a company, something huge, and together we started drawing out plans. Alex and I had everything covered. We had decided where the company would be in the next 5 years as at that time, and even set goals for each year too. At first I misjudged the situation. I thought Alex was just playing around until I saw him put it to action with my own eyes. He had gotten a small place and little equipment that could begin the work, and that was how our company began. Of course, final exams were coming up, and so we studied harder than ever and finished on a high note. We were so ecstatic, and I was so proud of everything we could achieve. Alex had met my mom and Sophia a few times already. He and Sophia got along so well, and I liked that. Alex asked me out a few weeks after we had graduated. I wouldn't say I didn't expect it, but it wasn't an easy decision for me to make. My friend Sheila had a huge crush on Alex, and I knew about it. She had told me more times than I could remember, but Alex never seemed interested in her. I accepted his proposal, and we officially started dating. Sheila was furious at me, and she didn't talk to me for some months. Alex was an attractive guy. I never looked at him that way until we started dating. I always saw him as my student, but things were different. He was now my boyfriend. He was taller than I was. I wasn't that tall anyways, but he was the perfect height. He always looked good, and I always thought it was because he had the best clothes to wear. But turns out he actually knew how to dress, smell, walk, and he was just perfect. I had never been a romantic type of person, but I knew women would give an arm and a leg to be with Alex. Alex had a friend, Frank, who majored in law, and he became the company's attorney and Alex's personal attorney too. Frank was a great lawyer and a close friend of Alex. They both had a very similar background, and so they got along really well. I did not know much about Frank at all, and I didn't really care to. We didn't see each other a lot, just days when we had a meeting that he had to be involved in. Alex and Frank would, however, hang out a lot. This continued for a year, and finally, Alex asked me to be his wife. It was a small surprise with only a few friends, and my mom and sister, but it worked. I agreed. And within the next year, we got married. Our company was doing quite well for itself and was beginning to make a name. Apart from being official partners, we were now also married, and things were looking great. We both understood our roles in making things work, and we did things without fault. 3 years passed since then, and our company had already surpassed all the goals we set for it, thanks mostly to Alex's effort. He was way more serious than I thought, and he definitely changed from the nonchalant boy who didn't care about school that I met all those years ago. He was driven, very driven. He really wanted to show his dad that he could do much better without him, and he was proving himself right, and as his partner, I can attest to that. As for our marriage life, things were normal. Nothing unusual ever happened. We had what you'd call a very average marriage. Nothing exciting ever happened, but we never argued, and that brought me great peace. We'd always talk and go on date nights and all, but aside from that, our marriage was very plain. We hadn't really put in much effort for a baby yet, and I think that sat right with us, because at the rate we both worked, a baby at that time wouldn't be convenient. There was always an event at the end of the year to celebrate the success of the company. It was not always the same thing we did. The first year was an official party, the second was a camp out, and last year it was going to be a beach party, but it was changed to a weekend hangout in a cabin. Our company had just over 40 employees, and so it could work. We rented 3 cabins uptown for ourselves, and everything was still going great up until that point. I remember the night before we left, Alex told me that he'd have preferred it if we just had the beach party. But since everyone else wanted this, he had to choose it. Our company had many young employees, and most of them were single, but a few of us were already married. Out of the 40 of us, 35 showed up. Some couldn't for one reason or the other, but as every year before that, Frank was present. Frank is definitely in his late 20s. He is dark-skinned and tall, taller than Alex. He has a good build and generally looks good. His voice gives him a presence too. Our employees present were mostly the ones fresh out of college/universities, and the few ones still in their finals. We prioritized hiring the younger set of people, and almost all our employees were young, just like Alex and I. During our hangout, there were different games like board games, consoles, group games, and everyone picked what they liked and did it. Growing up, I was never a party person. I always read books when my friends went to parties. The first party I attended was the first one hosted by our company, and so after living for 25 years at the time, this was only my third. I always heard the stories and how parties went wild, and all but never really cared much. At the previous events, nothing wild happened because of the type of events they were. This, though, felt different. It was only Friday night, and I could see everyone letting loose. They didn't seem like the organized and diligent workers we knew. Everyone was doing different things, and some ladies wore something very unethical. But I couldn't complain. It was a party after all. Friday night went by really slowly for me. It was all partying and dancing. I was on the fence floor, but I did not feel like I belonged because I couldn't even dance if I tried to. And I noticed pretty quickly that most people weren't really dancing, but they were being touchy and unethical instead. I left almost as soon as I got there, but Alex stayed the duration and danced all night. I had never seen that side of him before that day he danced, and I watched him for a while. I saw a lot of ladies throw themselves at him, but he gently declined them. Deep down, I wished I could be a party person just for the weekend. Everyone woke up late on Saturday. After all, most people were hungover. Alex woke up quite early, though. He hadn't drank last night. He doesn't drink or smoke, and that's one rule he's lived with his whole life, and that didn't change because of the party. He got up and prepared for the activities of Saturday. Saturday was a fun day for others, but for me, I would always remember it as the day that ruined both marriage and life. It started out early for me, but late for almost everyone else. I made breakfast for Alex and we brushed over some basic routines as we prepared for the rest of the day. It was noon, and we all went hiking for about 3 hours. By the time we were back, we freshened up and got ready for the evening BBQ, which then turned into our game night. That was the main event of the hangout. Every board game I could think about was available, and I was great at board games. I played them for a while, and after a couple of wins, I moved on to the group games. There were so many games being played, but I settled with a group of 10 people. Alex wasn't in that group, but Frank was. I wasn't aware of the game to be played yet, and once they started, I wanted out. It was truth or dare. I was confused about staying or going, but decided to stay because I have lived a mediocre life, so no truth could be embarrassing. And I thought no one would dare me to do something out of line as they knew my position and marriage status. Anyway, the game started out soft. Some pretty basic things were asked until someone dared to take off his shirt, and he did. I knew things were only going to get heated from then on. Some dirty dares passed around until it was my turn. I was to dare someone, and I dared her to take off her shirt, which she did without hesitation. I honestly thought she wasn't going to. Turns passed around till it was her turn, and she dared me to kiss Frank. Now everyone had some dare, while I took a shot for the first time I was dared. I am not a heavy drinker, and I had never drank before up until that point. I don't know if it was the drink I took, but I was definitely feeling more hyped than ever. When I heard the dare, I thought about it for a few minutes. I knew as much as this was a party, this was a work party, and though Alex was not here, there was a huge probability of him finding out. I wasn't able to make up my mind, and so I had to take another shot. After the second shot, I was definitely drunk. I couldn't think straight anymore, and no matter how hard I tried to control my body, it was difficult. By the time the game had gone round again, and it was right before my turn, was Silas's turn. Silas was a company employee and a college student. He was in his finals at the time, and before I knew what was happening, Silas was to dare Frank, and he dared him to kiss me. Now Frank had a lot to drink too, and was definitely already feeling it. Frank made his way to me while I just started looking lost. Before I knew what was happening, Frank's lips were all over mine. Everything got so dizzy, and I passed out after that. I saw Alex in the distance running over to me where I was before I passed out. I did not know what happened, but I woke up the next morning next to Alex in our room. I asked him, but he wouldn't talk much to me. Sunday's event went by without me because I stayed in the room. I had remembered what happened between myself and Frank, and I was not only embarrassed, I also suspected that Alex saw us, and this made me scared. Alex was someone who didn't like to open up much when something happened. He preferred to solve it on his own and stay locked up in his head till he was able to sort it. And this didn't only make me scared, it made me worry about him. But I knew Alex always did whatever he set his mind to do, which only worried me more because that made it extremely difficult to get him to change his mind when he made a decision. I knew Alex very well, and I knew finding out would ruin our relationship. Alex didn't speak to me much on Sunday even after he got back from the event of the day, and it was time to leave. Everyone left on Sunday evening and the drive back home was a long one. I decided to force myself to believe that he'd understand because after all, it was a mistake. But I was wrong. When we got home, Alex told me that he knew everything. In our 4 years of marriage, that would be our first argument. In my head, I'd hoped he'd understand that it was just a silly kiss that happened while we were drunk. Besides, it was Frank who came to me, but he didn't listen. Frank wasn't picking calls either. A few weeks into the new year had passed, and I hadn't seen Frank since the party. I was hoping he'd come and clear the air as things hadn't been going well in my marriage ever since. Alex and I started having issues because we have not been able to move on, and my once peaceful marriage has now become something else. After working together with Alex for 4 years, he decided to let me go from the company. He's the owner and CEO, and so his call is final. He sent over some divorce letters to me too a few weeks ago, just a few days after my birthday. I turned 26 and I couldn't believe that my husband was going to divorce me because of a silly kiss. We got to court after signing the papers, and of course he got to keep his company and his house while I got nothing. He took all the money and left me with nothing. Update. Everything happened so fast it seemed like a bad joke or bad dream I can't wake up from. After working for 4 years, I was able to accumulate some money, and I'm still living off that. But I know I'm going to have to find something else to do very soon. I moved out of my husband's house, and I'm now back with my mom. I barely have anything left, and I'm beginning to feel like a burden to my family again. It's been 6 months after the divorce, and I still see Alex's company on the news doing well and smashing goals. He filed a restraining order on me after I tried to talk things out with him a month ago. I haven't gotten any new jobs since I left that one, and I have also not been able to reach Frank ever since. I still love Alex so much, and I really want to get back with him, but I know that's like a dream that had not come true. I regret my actions, and I wished I didn't even leave the room that Saturday. Alex, if you're reading this, I'm sorry, and I know that what I did was wrong. I still love you, and I miss you more than anything. I am still struggling to move on. I've tried to start over, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I am still somehow tied to my ex-husband. I really have not felt drawn to anyone else, and I cannot stop thinking about the life we had built together and how it has all come crashing down. As time has gone on, I am trying to rebuild my life, and of course, time has healed me a little. I still feel shattered by what could have been. My sister and mom have been crucial for me, as they've been my support too. Of course, I still feel guilty for the end of what could have been, but I am beginning to come to terms with it. Of course, I'm scared of the uncertainty of the future, as I'm still young and the rest of my life is longer than the one I've lived, but don't think I can recover from this anytime soon. Again, Alex, I love you, and it was just a stupid kiss. I really wished we could have worked out and things went differently. I would give anything to have what we had again, and if by a chance you do come across this, please forgive me. Ladies, don't just kiss people on nights out or because of a dare when you're married or dating.